Ya Abdullah, Ya Amat Allah, we now move back to the matter of the Kai tribe, and they are from the Oghuz nomadic Turks who fled the Mongol invasions in Central Asia, and they moved into Anatolia. What is Anatolia? Anatolia is Asia Minor, or your modern day Turkey. And so they fled the Mongol invasions and they headed into modern day Turkey, into the area of Anatolia. And this brings us to a little bit of the history before Ertugrul, inshallah. It must be remembered, Ya Abdullah, Ya Amat Allah, O Kardash and Hatuns, it must be remembered, subhanallah, that during the period of the Khulafa al-Rashidin, we know Abu Bakr, Umar, etc., they began to move into the lands of Persia, And so the Islamization of the Persian lands began plus minus 500 years before it began in Anatolia. 500 years before it began in Anatolia, modern day Turkey. The Muslim world around the period of Ertugrul. So Ertugrul, it is said that he died in the year 1280. 1280. This is the 13th century, and this is the Hijri calendar 7th century. The 7th century according to the Hijri calendar. You find that you have the great Seljuks, Alp Arslan of the great Seljuks. He fought against the Byzantine Empire and captured the Emperor Romanos in the Battle of Manzikert. Very, very, very important battle. Took place in the year 1071. That's 948 years ago. The Great Battle of Manzikert. After the Muslims were victorious in the Battle of Manzikert, this opened up the area of Anatolia to Muslim and Turkish settlement. And so Muslims began to move into the area of Anatolia, or it was called the lands of Rome at that time. Why the lands of Rome? Because it was the land of the Romans, the Byzantine Empire. That was the land that they were settled in. But after the Battle of Manzikert, 1071, at the hands of Alp Arslan, this great general leader of the Seljuks, of the great Seljuks, once the Muslims were victorious, many Muslims and Turks, etc., the various tribes began to settle in the lands of Anatolia, the lands of Asia Minor, walhamdulillah. Later on, from the great Seljuks, you have the offshoot, and they set up camp or franchise in the lands of Rome, and they call themselves the Seljuks of Rome. So the offshoot from the great Seljuks are now the Seljuks of Rome, and they ruled from the year 1077 to the year 1308. Konya. Jalaluddin Rumi was from Konya. Konya was their capital. And we know the famous Sultan Alauddin, as we've seen in the series, Sultan Alauddin Keykubat. He was one of the great and most famous of the Seljuks of Rome leaders. He was around and in charge during the period of 1220 to 1237. That's the period that he ruled. He was the most famous of the Seljuks of Rome leaders, and he's the one who gave Ertugrul that piece of land in Sout. He is the one who gifted that piece of land to Ertugrul, mashallah. So as we mentioned, you had the great Seljuks who came to the assistance of the Abbasid dynasty. The great Seljuks, Alp Arslan, waged battle against the Byzantine Empire, captured Romanos, opened up the area of Anatolia for Muslim settlement, and then from the great Seljuks, the offshoot, came the Seljuks of Rome, who set up camp, set up house in Konya, walhamdulillah.